6:38. We all want to start. We'll call the meeting to order. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Do you have anything?
Under new business, I just want to talk about our favorite subject, COVID-19.
I'd like to add the community development coordinator. You want to have anything else I want to add to the agenda?
And under in camera, I'd like to have a short camera session. Personnel.
All right, hearing no other, can we get a motion for the approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Seconder? So second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have delegation tonight. Welcome our MP, Chris D'Entremont. Hello, Chris. How are you tonight?
Doing very well, thank you.
Good. Ben is not here tonight. He has an appointment in Halifax, so you got the rest of us tonight. I mean, the best of us tonight.
That would be probably the right way to say it, right?
The floor is yours, sir.
All right, thanks. And I won't hold you guys up longer than I really have to here. This was, of course, a full plan to be in person, but I guess the way things have been changing over the last couple of days, it's probably smart for us to all sort of stay in our little corners until this COVID round finishes up. Probably I should start right there. Making sure that the municipalities and the towns actually have what they need when it comes to COVID. Making sure that the federal programs are responding to the folks that you represent. Like I said before, is that you're closest to our constituents more than anyone. So you on a daily basis, whether you're hanging out at a Subway or other, that you're talking to folks that there are either not getting service or services that they require. So I would like to hear maybe what your thoughts are in and around COVID this next round. Give you the update that the student grants are now available for associations and, of course, municipalities and towns. Towns will be through their recreation departments making applications, of course, for student grants. So make sure we know that you've made application, what your number of applications are, so we can work with you with it. Maybe a little piece that you might not have known. I didn't know this until I became MP. Is Service Canada sort of manages the student grants. So there are national priorities. They then come to the municipality, they come to the MPs to bring their priorities into it. They then make their decisions, they rank stuff. They give us a preliminary look at the list, and then we can sort of make changes to the list, add things, subtract things. We can't necessarily change the bucket that we're given, the amount of money that's actually in the program, but we can make adjustments. So if you hear of an association that say, hey, listen, I didn't get approved, I just need one, and somebody else that probably got 12 and they only needed 3, we can make those little adjustments, but we only can do that if we actually know the associations and or organizations that are making those applications to the student grant. So, if you do know something, let us know so that we can follow it along through the process. And then I can take some questions on that after. Also talk about the fishery. I know we're all sort of in the center of lobster fishery. You guys would have experienced District 35 during their season. District 34 and 33 are of course underway, and you're all part of that group of municipalities and towns that are sort of trying to work together to have dialogue with the different groups that are concerned in the lobster fishery. Maybe a little bit about wharves, because I haven't had an update with Ed and those guys lately, so maybe we can talk about that one quickly. And RCMP seems to be the next one that we're getting, whether it's RCMP connected to the fishery, which Meteghan, of course, would have had that extra resource being brought to the area. There are worries from other municipalities and towns that some downloading might end up happening on top of the new contracts that might be signed with you. So maybe pick your brain a little bit on RCMP and policing when it comes to the fishery. Outside of that, again, just one of my bi-weekly or bi-yearly visit to the council to see what issues you would like me to bring to the House of Commons, knowing that my role has changed there just a little bit, being a deputy speaker of the House of Commons. So I can't necessarily ask questions and be super political anymore, but it probably serves us better that I have the opportunity to work sort of around in a non-political way with the ministers sitting on the government side now. So different change in role, different way to attack things, but I still need to know they're happening in order for me to bring them forward. So Deputy Bartlett, that's what I got to present, and it's just mostly an open discussion with you folks.
Anyone have any questions, or I can start if you want? Anybody else have anything?
Go ahead.
With the student grants, is there a site that they go to for that, Chris, or?
Well, they would have had if they applied last time, they would have gotten an email already from them. I'll have to provide you with the actual website. I would be lying to you if I said I knew exactly what it was, but it's the Service Canada website, but there's a student website that goes along with it. And I can probably post it on my Facebook at some point as well, just so associations know. But we've already sent an email out to all the associations that we knew of from last round. So everybody that did it should know by now that they should be making an application to it.
I know the recreation department here has already had their, and the museum also has had their email. And
All right.
It's interesting that you can sort of shuffle them around like positions, because we've done a little shuffling here ourselves before, haven't we, Tom? Yeah.
Well, it was really helpful during COVID because in a lot of cases where you would have had tour guides where there was no tour guides during 2020, right? So that's when our first run into it. So we were able to take sort of those folks, either give them to somebody else that needed them or turn them into groundskeepers or archivists, or we were able to adapt to COVID pretty much the last time around. Last summer, it wasn't so bad because people sort of were able to get back to a little bit of tourism and those kinds of things.
All right. Tom, you've been following the fishing scenario with the different municipalities. Is there anything here that you want to bring to Chris, or?
No, I believe, I think I wasn't able to make the meeting with you and Rick. But I think you're pretty much up to speed on what's been going on in the area. And so I appreciate your support and on the issue. And I guess we're hopeful that there's gonna be some resolution to this in the near future. But,
Yeah, no, and I think with the agreement with the 4 bands has sort of showed that locally the bands want to benefit from that resource and work with others on it as well. So I think that's helping out a whole bunch. I think there's still some questions in around of what those interim agreements are, how they're going to work, but I think there's a want for dialogue, and I think that's where that we as politicians, or you as municipalities or towns, can help with that dialogue to make sure that we're talking to the right people, make sure that the message is getting out. And I think, the fishing industry is doing well. They're having a very good season in 34. The prices are really good. Maybe the catches are down a little bit, but I think that's all being sort of washed out because of the pricing. But this year, Bear River should be participating in one way or another. Annapolis Valley, Acadia, and of course Glooscap. So I think we're slowly getting there, but it's all about I think it's all about communications and making sure that people know what's going on. I think the more that happens, the calmer that we can keep folks in trying to understand what's going on.
Anybody else have anything? Yeah,
I'd like to ask about, and it's related, RCMP policing. I know it's probably an issue in every rural community in our province. We feel it more acutely in Digby because there are any number of vessels that leave our wharf every day that can meet a plane drop off, another boat drop off, the amount of drugs that are coming into this port in this town is just staggering. We've suffered not having a staff sergeant in our detachment for quite a while. We got one and he's now off on leave, where we don't have another one again now. Every time that we talk about it, the whole issue of us funding the police department, the RCMP, is we pay almost $2 million. And you can drive down the streets in this town any given night of the week and never find an RCMP officer. I myself have had an issue, went to the detachment, there was a squad car running outside for half an hour. No one answered the bell, no one answered the phone. I gave up. So the issue of us having to pay, and it's a blank check. We just got to get a bill. There's no breakdown. There's no explanation of what we're being charged for. There's no explanation of what we're being charged on top of the contract for. And we get no services that we think that the people of this town are entitled to. It's really, really appalling to try and explain to a citizen when they have a problem trying to get a hold of a police officer why they can't. And yet their tax dollars go to pay that bill every day.
Yeah, no, you're not the only one that's I had a good meeting with the municipality earlier today, and they brought up some of the same things, and you're basically using the same detachment. So there's been some challenges with the Digby one for some time now, and it's not uncommon across the system, whether you're talking up in the valley or you're talking down this way, where everybody's off. It's a stressful job, I understand, and there's always challenges, but you're paying for 5 members or whatever that contract is supposed to be, and you're lucky if you get 3, right? And I can understand the overloading of the system, but 50 years ago, that was what we did. We sort of moved up from town cops into the RCMP system because of cost. And here we are 50 years later looking at the cost again. And I've heard more often of town cops coming back, whether you're looking at the Annapolis town process or other processes. I'm going to have a chat. I've already put in a request in to have a good chat with Marco Medicino. He's the Minister of Public Safety, and get an idea of across Canada what's going on. I don't know if it's a hiring problem they have, if it's a management problem they're having. I don't know why the RCMP are having such problems in filling gaps. And can you imagine, the further you go outside of Digby town, the more challenging it gets for them to actually service their area. It's a bit mind-boggling, quite honestly.
50 years ago, those town police walked down the front street every night and checked every door. Exactly.
They knew everybody by name. They knew where they lived. They knew what time they would they would know what's going on. There's no way for these guys and gals to actually know what's going on.
It's frustrating too when I can ask any resident of the town of Digby and they can tell you exactly where to buy your drugs, where to buy your illegal cigarettes, and they can't seem to make an arrest or carry out an investigation because it's always staffing. They don't have an investigator. They don't have a staff sergeant. Well, you know what? Crime keeps happening every day.
But I also think it's probably part of the court problem too, is that there's a burden of proof requirement now that is probably far outweighs what policing can provide to them now. I mean, I don't know what that gap is. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not gonna try to delve into that. But they don't seem very interested in following things more than they have to.
It's true, because you can provide them with video evidence, you can provide them with a statement, and even if they charge somebody, that person's back on the street within a week.
Right. So how does that work? So I think the system itself is probably a little bit overloaded in all respects. But I'll have that meeting with him. I'll copy you guys on that letter as well, because it's a challenge with your detachment, but it's a rural problem that I'm seeing right across the riding, across the province right now.
Keep hearing that the RCMP going unionized, which is going to cost us and everybody else more than what a lot of us can afford to pay.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that one. I mean, it's probably something that's been kicking around for a while, but I hadn't heard that more recently. So yeah, that would add cost for sure.
Some of that stuff as well, Councilor Sonia, we can bring up at the police advisory meeting as well.
Yeah.
So I find they're very police advisory. But yeah, maybe a little bit more out the street would be,
And it's never the officers. I mean,
No.
they do their job, they do their best, right? It's a system, like you said.
They're stretched beyond where they need to be stretched. And I know right now is that, I mean, they're seconding people or had been seconding people out of your detachment or out of another detachment to send them over to Meteghan because of the fishing crisis. So that created a whole bunch of other problems on top of it. So yeah, so I want to get into better feeling, get a better presentation on what's going on with policing as it goes, but also the challenge of who the heck is paying for all of that policing that was going on in St. Mary's Bay. I just worry at some point that the feds are going to dump it down on the province and the province dumps it down onto you guys. And I don't want that to happen. It's a mandate that they should have been fulfilling as a federal government, not as a province or not as a municipality.
I mean, with COVID now too, and mental health is a huge thing where we can lose 2 officers to Yarmouth for 5 or 6 hours too. I mean, there's,
Right.
and we have a major mental health problem in this area, and something, I don't know why something's not set up in this area. It's something that we can talk to the health board about, but there needs to be something in this region for that. So.
Okay.
Affordable housing going again too. I mean, affordable housing is the root of everything. If you don't have a place to live, you're not going to do well at school. If you don't have a place to live, you're not going to get a good job. If you don't have a place to live, you're just not going to have a very good quality of life. And we really have no places for affordable housing in this town. And people used to complain all the time that Cape Breton was the biggest unemployment center in the province. It's not. It's southwestern Nova Scotia now.
I mean, housing has been one that I think all parties have been talking about. It seems like Minister Hussen has been talking about investments in affordable housing, but I haven't seen, because it's always it's one of those funny federal government issues again, where the federal government provides the funding to the provinces, and the provinces then find the developers to develop the units. So I mean, I don't know where some of these are in process. I mean, are you guys aware of any developers interested in building new homes or new facilities in Digby or anywhere in Southwest Nova Scotia right now? I'm not, because it's too hard for them to get funding or to get financing for any of these things right now.
That's the stumbling block even for non-profit societies, is if you have a piece of property and a building, the sky's the limit. You can do anything. If you're trying to get money to get a property, forget it.
Yeah. So it's sort of that gap, and it's I think it's exacerbated too because of the whole housing crisis we're having, where every possible house has been sold. So if the house is selling for $350,000, it's only worth 70. The people that could afford the 70 are completely out of the market. So where do they go?
And it seems the units that are being built, like in Halifax and the bigger areas, it's only for the rich, because a certain percentage of the units have to be for low-income housing, but they make their money on the 100 units, and the 2 units that they have to give a percentage-wise is, still $1,000 a month is a lot of money for someone.
The supply is here,
Yeah.
demand is here.
Here, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's like I was in Halifax a few weeks ago, and I was going by that corner corner of Bears and I can't remember the street that goes there. And they had tore down an old brick building that probably would have had 8 units in it that probably were going for $400 a unit. They're building a big brand new tower in there that are probably smaller than you want to. Not families can't go in them, but they're probably $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Who's gonna rent that? Not the people that were in that first building, because they'll never be able to afford there. So those are the people that end up, I wouldn't say on the street, but pretty close, that they get underhoused and where they've got nowhere to go. Same thing happens in our area. Okay, housing. I'll put housing on my list for you guys. Anything on the wharf? I haven't heard it. Like I said, I haven't talked to Ed in a while, so I don't know who's on the Harbor Authority there.
The mayor is on housing.
Okay.
Award. Housing award.
So we haven't had a real update either.
I think we need another $29 million-ish. That
Just.
Yes, that's enough.
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's all they had left that they wanted. Another $29 million.
Yeah, it's a long ways from the 3 we found them before. So well, we need to up the game a little bit.
You have something, Tom?
Yeah, just, it doesn't directly affect the town of Digby, but it does indirectly and economically it does. And that's the losing of the debts in Cornwallis. I just
Yeah.
wonder what, what if anything we as a municipal unit can do to try to change somebody's mind, or at least massage the idea a little bit and get a little more traction out of it, because it's going to be a huge economic hit to the area. And because it provided jobs and it did provide economic impacts
Yeah.
to
I mean, ABCC payroll last year, I think the number I got today was like $1.3 million. Sizable. I don't know what that is when it comes to the cadet program for the summer, but I'm sure it's quite large. That's probably when they have the most people working there. I don't know why they made a decision like this with the cadets, especially when some of these contracts still had at least a year on them. Like in Cornwallis's case, apparently there was still a year in the contract for cadets. And apparently what they're doing is going to be moving them all to Greenwood. I don't know how Greenwood's going to be able to take on that extra load. And plus, you're talking basically about Sea Cadets. I mean, you can't do a whole lot of Sea Cadet stuff in Greenwood. So it's an odd question. I wrote a letter before Christmas to Minister Anand. Hey, she's a Valley girl. She grew up in Kentville, or did a fair amount of time. Her dad was a doctor in Kentville. So I'm trying to use that avenue to her just to sort of make her understand. I mean, she would understand the Valley more than the Valley from Digby on up than anybody. So I'm trying to get a meeting with her as soon as we're allowed to have meetings again. I think during the same time she was caught up with that whole the sexual issue with the Canadian Armed Forces. So she was a little caught up, but she did want to chat about it when we had the earliest convenience on it again. We've got a month or so to try to decide, but after that you got to get planning, right? So I don't know what kind of window we have left. And then I got a meeting with Annapolis next week. I think I'm talking to them as well. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any update at all, I guess, on the COVID as far as wage subsidies and things like that? I guess it's coming out again.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what you're going to compare that to now. Does it go back to 20 or does it go back to 18, or how's that going to work?
I mean, I don't know it yet. The challenge that I've read in most of what they put online, I mean, I know what Bill C2 brought, and a lot of it was, depending on what happened and what the numbers were, but the province would have to lock down in order for it to key some of the programs. So I don't know how they're going to look at that, what lockdown actually means. So right now, I think the province has pushed down on, especially restaurants and those kinds of things, to bring their numbers down, or only take out and those kinds of things. But we haven't locked down yet, not like what's going on in Quebec. So we don't necessarily qualify for many of those programs. So we're still trying to see what they're going to do or how they're going to react to it. So we don't have a whole lot of answers on it yet.
The only issue is, we have our employees that have to get paid, and without a subsidy, and we're down 20-30% in sales every week. It's like, how do we, I guess a different way is to give us the money to give to them rather than put everybody on serve again, right? Make us accountable, the employer.
I would rather a wage subsidy that flows through the businesses and some kind of EI if that's needed. They keep talking about the lockdown. There's two, like there's a lockdown and there's a caregiver lockdown, but I don't know what keys it. And then tomorrow, depending on what Strang and Houston are going to bring forward, is it is it going to go from the 10-day to the 5-day like they've been doing in other provinces? And does 5 days actually key any of the programs? Because a lot of it would talk about at least a week. 5 days isn't even a week. So there's a lot of questions around it that we don't necessarily have answers for yet.
And the province now has a subsidy coming out, that you apply for early this month, based on obviously your salary, but, range from 2,500 to, what is it, 5,000 or 6,000 is not a lot, but it's, it's something, I guess, so.
Well, it tries to bridge a gap, and I'm hopeful that this time that this bump in Omicron is a shorter bump, that, like in a lot of cases, it seems like they went up and then it sort of came back down quite quickly. So I'm hoping that happens here, but we were able to avoid the other versions. I think this one, everybody I'm knowing more. I'm actually knowing people that have got COVID now, which I really didn't have a whole bunch of last time. So it's just showing how more virulent this one is.
And I know if you were concerned about the 40,000, is that going to be extended? Because some people are actually probably dipping into it now, and can we pay it back now? Should we pay it back now? Like, a lot of people don't know what to do with it. What they have.
I think I'd hold on for just a little bit till we know what this bump does, right? So, but anyway, no, but we'll watch for those programs, and if anybody's got any questions, call in the office. The girls are getting really good at knowing the avenues on it. For a while we've been working on actually pretty much normal stuff for an MP office, like immigration and EI and CPP and those kinds of things. And then, but I've noticed a few more people calling about COVID again, so I think that'll start picking up over the next couple of weeks.
Anybody have anything else at all?
On an unrelated note, what do you think the chances are the ferry in Yarmouth is actually going to run this year?
Well, listen, my fingers and toes are crossed, so let's see what happens. I haven't talked to Mark yet. I'm scared to actually even call him and ask him what he thinks. I think people are hopeful, but we got to get clear of this COVID stuff, or nothing's going to work. But I don't see us closing the border to the US. So as long as that sort of stays kind of open, but that 3-day requirement for some kind of PCR is going to create a whole bunch of challenges for people. So I don't know. Is it worth to run? I don't know at this point. Hopeful. It'll be all gone in May. That's what we hope.
That's
I'm picking a date. I picked the date. It's May.
That's your New Year's resolution, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, if no one has anything else,
Well, easy enough. You guys know how to get a hold of me, or you?
I was gonna swing back to housing just real quick, actually, answer the question you asked, which there is a developer that's looking at putting up a couple of decent sized units, but one thing that I heard from him was, and I don't know if this is federal or provincial, but it's getting the grants and the money that's available from government to sort of sync up with the lending institution they're working with. Because if you've got 7 hoops to jump through, oftentimes the lending institution says, we can't count that towards your down payment or whatever else. And it's just making sure, and like I said, I don't know if it was federal or provincial, but it's making sure that that stuff syncs up with your lenders so that projects can take place. And hopeful that this individual does go through with their project they're looking at for here. But yeah, they're few and far between. We don't get a whole lot of people right now. And I work at RBC. We don't get a whole lot of people coming through looking to do anything too sizable. So always a little bit positive when someone is talking about it, but it's better when funding is easily accessible and clear. So that way it doesn't get stuck in month or multi-month long gridlock at the bank.
There's a lot of back and forth, I think, goes on there that shouldn't probably go on. It should be pretty clear. You'd think it would be clear from the feds what they can actually do. So, okay, I appreciate that a whole bunch.
all right. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight or zooming in with us. That's great. We certainly appreciate talking to you and getting updates from you. It's great. And congratulations on your appointment there. That was pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, no, it was a good election, and I was pretty happy with that. But to be Speaker of the House of Commons is quite an honor, and I think it'll be challenging once we get into the House again come the end of the month. But you guys always can call me 740-1923. Don't forget, that's my number. Give me a call anytime if you need something.
All right. Well, perfect. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, folks.
Yeah, good night. Okay, interesting. Always fun to have that. every now and then, that's for sure. All right, let's move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, December 6th. Obviously, we've all read it. Can I get a motion to accept those minutes? Nobody wants to.
My only complaint is Councillor Saulnier interrupted my seconded streak at like 5. But otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Have a seconder?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any business arising? Any unfinished? Nothing there. We'll move on to reports, the CAO report.
Okay, short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Received word that Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole is interested in meeting with the mayor and warden of the CAO group relating to the law for 55. So planning for a meeting for the second week of January. January is underway, so there has been no update since on this. It's a report. Community navigator. I'm expecting more meetings to occur in the new year. However, with the municipality closing the building down, there probably won't be any meetings unless they're held here. So, community development coordinator. So basically, I've decided not to pursue the creation of this position any further at this time. And funding, Racket Road Seawater Flooding Project, the construction by Dexter Construction has been completed, and it appears that the cost will be below the awarded amount of $246,895 plus HST.
Okay, so, do you know how much, like an approximate amount was below that, or?
20 grand, give or take.
Okay.
And basically, what it amounted to was the contingency that was in the contract. We didn't have to use any of this. So,
It looks good though.
Yeah, that's good.
The community development coordinator had thought any more, maybe add about a part-time position in the interim?
Put that under new business.
Or even to add to that, and I know we can talk about under new business, but where there is talk about, like student grants, like if it's a part-time, anything that can help, take away any work that you guys are doing, especially if the feds are gonna give us money, like, let's find a way to take someone's dollars and do something to.
the thing with that particular program is that there is no guarantee. I mean, last year we were extremely lucky, we got 4 last week, but last year.
Yeah, we did.
And, which we've been basically applying for 4 positions for the last 10 years. Right,
The
which
year
never
before we got one.
And one year we didn't get any.
It's
Right. But most of the time we only get 1, which ends up to be for the VIC. So, so basically, Leslie asked about it today, and as far as that program, I said that we should apply for 4 positions that we've applied for at least, and because I think it's the 25th of January that
Yes.
the cutoff date is, so short window. And, yeah.
Right. Move on to the Digby Recreation report.
What's in your package? Anything I can? Certainly try.
So just in case people do ask, we did close the rink down until at least 12th of January, mainly because the big groups backed out. So minor hockey gave up minor hockey because of the restrictions, and figure skating as well. And all we had on was free skate, so there was no point in keeping the arena open for free skate. So
So is the ice Machines still going? or-
Yeah, ice is still, yeah, ice is still, and so we should have more on that. Maybe tomorrow, I guess there's another announcement tomorrow, but right now, hockey in Canada doesn't look that great. So, who knows when the kids will get back. A guy came in the shop today and said he was building an outdoor rink, 100 by 100, because hockey's on, hockey's off, minor hockey, and he wasn't too happy with it, but again, that was their decision, not the arena, that's for sure. So, anything else you want to add there, Peter?
No.
All right. Circus is coming. All right. Move on to Deeping Area Tourism Association.
Same thing, before I didn't make the meeting because I had another meeting. Try to answer any questions.
See, Hal Ontario's doing a brochure on Lewis. I read it.
Sure.
What's that? Hal Ontario is doing something. Ron Lewis brochure. Is that just a brochure they had out for Ron Lewis, or is that something new?
They haven't had a brochure on Long Lewis in a number of years, so, they're trying to, develop a more, awareness of mud.
And last report is the committee of the whole. Anybody have any, guess we got a motion there, to the whole. So can somebody make that recommendation?
I'll make a motion that the Diddy Marketing and Promotional Levy Bylaw number 2022-01, receive first reading.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. What's next step for that, another reading?
So basically, the next step, we have to advertise, give the first reading. And so that payment will be in the paper in the next, probably next,
Should be next week.
next week's
Yeah.
paper. And it gives people an opportunity to know that it's getting second reading and that they can come or they come ask questions about the bylaw. And at the February council meeting, it gives second and final reading. Right?
All right, new business, COVID-19.
Okay. So, I guess municipal offices have been dropping like flies around us and closing their doors to the public. And the last, started before Christmas and just before Christmas. And municipalities, the latest one, as of today, they closed. I talked to my staff within this building and talked about whether they had any safety concerns. And basically, consensus of the staff is that we feel pretty protected the way it is. We are not overrun with people in and out all the time, or long lines. And people that visit have been respectful, very respectful to the rules and regulations. So as long as that continues, I don't see any need to close the doors to the public at this point. The only thing that I may institute is the upstairs back door will be locked, so that we funnel all traffic through the front door, right? So nobody can get in the back door, and then that way That's basically to protect Bruce because he's up here by himself. And, he can be in the office and then, somebody just show up in the doorway and he's trapped, right? So,
So, John, what's in this building for an air handling unit? Anything?
you're looking at it.
No.
That was the thing that council cut when we built the building. The air exchange system was in the original design of the building. And I say council, I'm assuming it was council that made the final decisions. And that was, do have the blueprints. I have seen the blueprints. It is a full-fledged air exchange ventilation system in it, right? And that section got cut right out altogether.
And the price is small unit even for the first floor.
At this point, no, I haven't. This is sort of a little joke. We said, well, that's the reason why we didn't replace the windows, because the wind was thrown so bad that. So, that was a little joke amongst staff, but in all reality, I mean, Joy, in the middle of February -15, she may have a window in the track, right? So there is occasionally fresh air that gets into the building.
One way or another.
Yeah, one way or the other. Right, but I think that's a good point that we should look into some sort of air exchange. Not, well, actually, it should be for the full building, if possible, because you need this room. You need it in the offices, and you need it downstairs instead of the office space.
Remaining COVID money, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, you have to be really imaginative on how creative, because basically, they say renovations are not to be included. However, you may be able to spin it, right? So.
In addition to.
We've been having our accessibility meetings here. I don't know how many other meetings held here. Is that going to be affected by?
I think that basically at this point, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, I wanted council's opinion as well on where do we go from here with municipal meetings. Are we comfortable continuing the way we are at this point? I'm also sort of waiting for tomorrow's update from Strang in Houston to find out whether we're going to be, I guess, any further restrictions are going to be imposed. But for the most part, I mean, as we can tell, we're here tonight. We're down one council member, the mayor, but for the most part, this is us. We hardly ever have any members. We are 6 feet distance, and I think my opinion is that we're being pretty safe. And the only thing that we may have to tighten down on if things get worse would be wearing a mask going in. Right.
Could we institute a policy of any delegation would have to do a Zoom meeting? That's to say.
We could basically, and that's the other thing, probably that would be the best. It seems we've had, this is the second. The first was with Chris Millier at the public hearing.
Right.
Seemed to work well. Tonight's with Mr. D'Entremont seemed to work well. And we have good interaction.
It was easy to hear.
And so I mean, we have the technology, we can use it. That way it cuts down on the amount. I mean, when we have just normal council meetings, yes, the public have a right to be here if they wish. We would still have basically try to do social distancing is best possible. And we can also say that, when we reach a magic number
Yeah.
of people, that's it. We're to what we're required to have in here. So, I mean, basically, what last I heard, it was 50% of your capacity or something. So it depends on whether we're drunk or we're sober. Based on that sign down there, how many people we can have in here. But
Yeah.
I mean, we'll never hit even at the 92 max. 46 people will never achieve that in this room.
No,
Right.
no, I don't have any issues meeting myself. I guess I think what Peter was saying, like as far as like police advisory or something, when you have other citizen reps come in, do we limit those? So is that sort of what you're getting at? or-
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think, I think there we have, 2, 3, maybe 7 or 8 at the most at the, accessibility meetings, and I don't know, like I say, I don't know how many more meetings are held here, so,
And we
and
do
how
senior
many- what the
safety,
numbers are.
and we do police advisory, and it's pretty much the same, and maybe 2 over there.
And that's the way,
Yeah.
and that's the way we run it.
I mean, anything that I can say is, any outside committee that uses this room for meeting space, they need to, respect our rules and regulations, right? Like our COVID regulations that we have in place, right? And as long as people are respectful, and I don't see any issue in trying to, keep separated as best as possible. And if not, mask up to the hilt and do your thing and, right? But,
What about having a sign-in book for committee meetings like that? Could help with the tracking. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but if you have the citizen rep or even one of us that have, symptoms and we come, at least we know who was here that night for tracking.
It probably makes sense.
Yeah.
To do it.
Especially where you and I and Mike, we work in the general public, so, yeah.
I mean, for us, we're here, but I mean, as far as if someone came in from senior safety that, had symptoms and we know who was here that night and they got some someone outside of it, right? So.
that's the other thing, I think that anybody, that's another thing, probably if somebody with any sickness symptoms or whatever shows up at a meeting, they should be, very politely asked, would you mind not?
Yeah, they should be.
Yeah, or go to Zoom, we're allowed to do Zoom.
Yeah. Or, you can make arrangements to Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And, what point you?
No, she was.
I didn't point the finger at you,
No, but, we had a staff person that showed up this morning and was swiftly turned on, were healed and sent home because of symptoms, or bad, but nobody else, doesn't matter if it's only a cold, if it is a cold, right? None of us need it,
That's right.
right?
Especially no circulation.
Because I know of some people that have had this latest cold that's been going around and literally it's knocked them on their ass. And I said, and they've had several tests for COVID and they've come back negative. So they said, this cold virus, it gets a hold of you, it knocks you. So nobody wants it because we had that discussion this morning with staff, and I said, Leslie asked me, she said, well, if we all come down with COVID, what do we do? Well, I said, we all go home, and shut the office down, right? Pure and simple.
Yep.
I said, there's nothing else we can do, right? Yeah, I said, or if, even one of us comes and we get exposed, we get it, shut it down for a short time till everybody gets, that's what we have to do.
So nobody was really uncomfortable coming to work?
No,
No. And they have an option to stay home if they want to stay home.
I mean, it's been right from the start of COVID, our policy has been, if you have any type of flu or cold symptoms or any type of symptoms of COVID-19, you stay home. You call, report, say, listen, I'm not feeling well, I got this and this and this, and you stay home because we don't want it to come in.
No.
And because even if it is a common cold, it's gonna put somebody else out, right?
All right. Anybody want to add anything to that, or, so Tom, you'll just,
Unless there's drastic updates tomorrow, and if there is, then, I mean, we have had, zero guidance from municipal affairs on anything that's been out lately. And, you know, the AMA is sort of sent something out with the last restrictions just prior to Christmas. But, you know, basically saying that, you know, you can still hold meetings, but people you have to abide by the masking and the social distancing rules, right? So basically, you know, they talk about bubbles. I think that for all intents and purposes, when council comes to meet, we are a bubble, you know, and we respect one another's space, and we're here to do the job, and we're not socializing, regardless of what anybody thinks.
all right. Move on to the community development coordinator. At last meeting, we were going to, I guess it was sort of left. And I guess I'm kind of concerned that we're not doing it. We spent some time meeting, and I think we're short-staffed. I think we need that person. It's going to take a while to get the proper person for that. So I would personally like to see the ball start to roll on at least getting the job out there to see if there's anyone qualified, because it could take some time to get someone with those qualifications. We have some projects on the go. The front streetscape is one of the programs. The extra person downstairs, people get, we're not going to really grow if we don't have someone to start knocking that down. Other towns are doing stuff that, you know, I think we're missing out on because we don't have a person to do grants like directly. We talked about the fire department last time. It's another project that will not get going unless we have an extra body. Basically, the two on either side of me are basically the ones that are responsible for that. So I would be in favor of, I don't know if I can motion or not as the chair tonight, but I feel it's very important that we get that going. So I don't know what anybody else feels about it, but I think we're missing the boat if we don't move forward.
Well, we budgeted for it, I mean, I think
Yeah, but
oh, what were you talking about?
we talked about it.
It was supposed to be, that was the reason that we're talking about being able to first start, so that it could be part of a new budget.
Right. But it could be 6 to 7 months before we find the right qualified person to do that, right? If we decide after budget we're going to do it, then that could be another year. I mean, it's, you know.
What would you think the process is, Mike? Do you think that you have to come up with a job description first?
Well, I think we've all looked at it, you know. Tom knows what he needs and what he wants, and he's talked to Leslie about it, I'm sure. But I think we need to move forward with that. I really do. I mean, we may not spend that salary in the next 6 months or 8 months.
No.
But I think we got to get the ball rolling on that. So there's no one downstairs to do grants, right? I mean, when you look at other municipal units who have coordinators and stuff, and as much as the municipality up here, the amount of staff they have, you know, sometimes you wonder why, but you know why they have it, because they need it, right?
Yeah.
And I know at our seminar we had at the community college, that was sort of hinted around, didn't really come out and say it, but we do need another body here. So, and I'm sure they'll be put to work. It definitely won't be a waste of time. $1 grand, $200,000 to $300,000 certainly pays that off, for sure, right? So, anyway, that's,
Just a question. If, Tom, you decided not to move forward with it at this point in time, is there any other specific reason that maybe you haven't discussed, or?
No, I guess basically, I guess, and I'll probably better express myself later in camera, but I guess basically it was sheer frustration.
Okay.
For lack of a better word.
in my opinion, it just seemed to prolong. And I think, we took the time to meet, the four of us met a couple times, and Tom did spend some time getting it done up, and, I mean, when you see the job description itself, I mean, it is long for sure, but it just goes to show you what the need is here, right? So, I mean, it's easy to say, okay, let's get this done, or Tom get that done, but, I mean, there was a time in council where, Peter does his stuff, I do my stuff, and the councils were actually the committees to do that kind of stuff, and now it's sort of downloaded type thing. Since the CAO system came in, it's been like, well, just get that done, Tom, and just get that done, Leslie, right? So, I mean, I like to be engaged in council and activities myself, and I think we need that person, right? So, I mean, that person who can get some money for us to get projects done, like you mentioned, the fire hall. There's a prime example. Well, I don't think there's anyone qualified at the fire department that can put a grant together, right? So, a person that can work with Tom and work with that committee that we're putting together would be very beneficial, right? At least it's a 40-hour-a-week job that gets looked into. So, I was just concerned that it was going to be dropped, and I strongly feel it should not be dropped. So,
Yeah, I guess basically put that in the report, just see what council's thoughts were. Just that I wasn't gonna be pursuing it unless council moves in that direction. Not that I was giving up totally on it, just that I don't spend any more time on it unless council.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand the disconnect. I mean, I think there was a will amongst us to proceed with that. So I don't know, maybe in camera you can explain what the itchy of is.
but anyway, not to put you on the spot, even in camera, I would just like to move on and, let's get it done type thing, right? So, like I say, it could be 6-7 months before you find the right person for that job, right? So, at least it gives some hope for the staff that, something's coming along. I mean, Ed does grants too, and he has public works to take care of, and enough of his own problems too. So, not that they won't be involved, because they'll have to be involved.
Well,
but,
it's broader than that too, right? It's beyond
Yeah.
grants, it's charitable foundations.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of other sources we haven't even looked at.
Yeah. And now the MP is who he is, and has probably a little more pull than what he used to have. So, I think it's very important. Other places are getting brand new fire departments and brand new parks, and Yarmouth's getting this and getting that, and everyone says, Yarmouth's always a prime example. How come Yarmouth's getting all this, right? Because they have a person that does that, right?
They made an investment in someone.
Yeah.
Somebody else has paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll add one thing where if we can't find the right person, would we or should we consider like an executive assistant, like someone who's helping Leslie to get done like the stuff is, because you refer to as the side of the desk or under the desk material, to work on that, because as you said, whatever your proper title is, Mike. Leslie and Edward do some grants, and if we can't find the right person to be able to just focus on that, at least they have some experience in it. If we can take away some of the extra work that they're working on that maybe shouldn't be on their desk, at least we're freeing up our most qualified person to work on the stuff that's out there. Yeah, if we find we hit a dead end with it, because maybe the person we're looking for doesn't exist as, as we want them to, we shouldn't limit that. Like, if we need a body in some way, shape, or form to help out, maybe we look at that alternative.
Yeah.
I
I mean, give it some time frame, like a month or 2 months or whatever, and then move into something that you need, right?
Yeah, where it's a complex role, I wouldn't even say, but maybe even 3 months is warranted to put it out there for.
Yeah.
But if we should have an end date for it, where if we don't find who we're looking for, then we'll move on to what our second
need.
Yeah, what our second best would
You
be.
not to oversimplify it, but in my mind, it's as simple as job description, discussion, salary, approval, hire the person.
Yeah. So can I get a motion to move forward with this coordinator position?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with it.
Seconder?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And before we move on, and then I just, Bruce asked me if I update council on the 2 dangerous and unsightly orders that were issued just before Christmas, the Christmas break. So today was the deadlines for cleanup. He visited both sites, and nothing has been done, which we kind of expected. So they had discussions with both landowners, and probably tomorrow there's going to be cleanup action on both properties. Indicated by the town. I give Bruce direction. I said, no more. I said, you heard council's direction as well as I did. Well, I'm just enforcing what council has said. They want order and then action. And that's what we're gonna do. So basically, at this point, we want people to know that even though he was asked for an extension, he said, no, I'm not giving you any more extension. You've already had 28 days, right? In reality. And you never done nothing. You sit on your hands.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's going, so today, I do know he's called a tow truck for 2 of the derelict vehicles. And he's also called Dickie Salvage and Disposal for some cleanup. Arrange for some cleanup. So
good.
Hopefully it all plays out and the weather cooperates with us, and we can get some of those too, and hopefully it's going to send a message.
Yeah, that's good.
But basically, where he's frustrated with, with people always tell him, oh, I'm going to do it, and never getting it done, right?
Yeah.
And so I just had to give him the support that he needed, say that, listen, I've got your back, council has your back, you do what you've been directed to do.
Yeah.
And I said, if you need to pass the buck, or you pass the buck to me. You say that you've been directed by your superior supervisor, and if they have an issue, they can take it up with me. So.
Good. That's good news.
That's good.
All right, I think that was it, and we need a motion to go on camera.
So moved.
Secondary. Second. In camera we are.
Move out of motion. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.